Hello, this is Marcy with Sketchbook Scheming. I experimented making my own marbled paper, and I tried 3 different techniques, and then I ripped up all the pieces and assembled them into a collage, trying to represent a beautiful place I had visited in Monterey, California, along the Pacific Coast Highway. The first method I tried involved using some resin dye from my old crafting days, and it would float a bit on the surface of the water, and then I could slide the paper underneath. And it was a bit random, very random, but you could also guide it here and there to certain blobs of color that you noticed. I also tried mixing in a little vegetable oil, which helped the paint or the color to sit up better on the surface of the water. Here I'm using acrylic paints to mix in with the vegetable oil, and they gave a very vivid color, which I really liked, compared to the resin dye. I tried all different types of paper. Some were too thin, some were too thick. So I definitely would like to try experimenting with all of these again. Next method involves spraying down a bed of shaving cream and adding the paint on top and then laying in the paper. I found this method was much more stable, much more predictable, and it was very easy to get vivid color onto the paper compared to the oil method. I did make a bit of a mess using too many colors, but it was fun to keep trying to lay down some vivid color. When I try this again, I will definitely want to use a wider spatula, because going back and forth over it in multiple swipes tended to muddy up the colors and create some strange seams. You'll see when I put the collage together, I should have been more purposeful, I think, in the colors I needed. And not just the colors, but more variation between light and dark, because it was very hard to get the right contrast that I needed in the collage. The third technique I tried was suminagashi, a Japanese marbling technique. And in one hand I have the color, and in the other hand I have some soapy water. And you put down a circle of the color, and then you poke it with the soapy water and it repels it, so you can make concentric circles that way. I also used isopropyl alcohol at times, and when you touch the alcohol to the ink, it does that wild fragmenting. So that was a really fun technique to try. I don't think I had the right kind of ink or the right kind of paper, so I'll put a link to the tutorial I watched, and you can see the incredible marbled paper that the artist was making in that video. I definitely need more practice with this. I couldn't get very rich color with the ink, and I actually found that copy machine paper worked the best for me if I let it soak in the mixture for about 5 minutes or so. I lightly sketched out the scene in pencil, and I tried to pay attention to large shapes that I could end up using as pieces of paper in the collage. I end up completely covering up my pencil marks, so I really just use them as a guide for where to place different chunks of paper. These chunks of cliffs that I'm working on now really came out the best, I think, the cliffs and the sky. The water, I didn't have much rhyme or reason for why I used the shapes that I did. I should have had more cohesive water. You'll see, I used different materials for different parts of the water, and I think that was my biggest mistake. I did enjoy, though, having all the different types of paper. This was some thick watercolor paper. I used ripped up brown paper bag. I used some index cards, some book pages. So I really did like the variety that I used. I still think, though, that I should have mapped out the different areas of the illustration and had a better plan for which paper colors and types were in which areas. The idea that the lines of type on the book page could kind of represent the direction of the water coming in, and by tilting the lines different ways, it would recreate the waves of the water. I don't think that really came through, but that was my idea behind that. I used watered down Mod Podge as my glue, and it worked really well because I could glue underneath the pieces and then also over them to kind of seal it in when I was done. The first time I tried a collage recently, I had used gouache, which is not waterproof, and it smeared a lot during the gluing process, so I'm learning a little bit at a time. I tore all the edges by hand except for one element that I add at the very last second, and I like the effect of the ruffled edges and the white that you see from the tear in between a lot of the pieces of paper that I'm gluing on. That piece that I'm covering up now was a beautiful piece of paper, so I don't know why I put it underneath those other papers. And it also is supposed to be a piece of the sea, so it really doesn't work with the book pages sea that I'm gluing in. It's okay though. It was a lot of fun. This piece I kind of do like, even though it's supposed to be sea, because I was trying to have the white represent this extremely foamy part of the ocean as it's coming into the shore. I used this gift card to make sure the border between the two sketchbook pages would be nice and tight with the page pressed down. I did like how these cliffs came out, and that was my most purposeful use of color and contrast, but there still wasn't enough contrast, so I'm going over it here, adding some sepia ink, and I really like adding the shadows and borders with the sepia ink. I thought that worked really well. pretty much done, but it still doesn't look much like an oceanfront scene. There, that took care of that. Thank you so much for watching. I loved playing around with paper marbling and collage, and we'll definitely be trying them again in the future.
Here, watch, I'll show you. It's cool. Uh-oh, that's gonna be a mess. The show must go on.
Absolutely.
Ooh, this shaving cream method is cool. Oof, I overdid it. I blurred it all. I'll try again.